Good morning, Prof. How are you doing?
Good morning, baby. I'm good, thank you. How are you? Great,
I'm
great
very
Sunday morning,
well.
isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And it has been for a few days now, even the whole of last week it was sunny, even though we had like cold days, a little bit cold, and some showers as well, but it was still fine. And
It's
this
getting
morning is
springier and springier.
it is, yes, it is spring indeed, everywhere we are. Viewers, good morning to you guys. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining us again on this beautiful show. Guys, please do us a favor. Let your friends know, let your family members know that SonRise is live. Guys, you know how we do this, right? You have more people on this show, and then we can engage, we can just talk about different things. And also on our Spotlight Minutes, guys, you've been seeing different people come join us and answering questions. We are looking for that person. We would say, guys, I'm coming and I'm going to answer like 10 questions under 30 seconds. And if you're that person, please reach out to us and we'll definitely bring you on the show. Okay. Thank you so much. This morning, we have a lot to go through, and I have some very, very lovely questions to ask Prof. I mean, when I get there, you would know. Prof, so this morning, I am very upbeat, as in upbeat this morning. However, what I really want us to discuss isn't something to be upbeat about. So I can't really help it. I feel like, well, I need to strike a balance, right? But I'm just going to go for it anyway. And this is thinking about, the recent events that we have seen a couple of weeks ago now. One being the verdict on George Floyd's murder case, right? And the other one being the current issue on that the journalist that has been held in Iran for a few years now. Because I'm sure I saw it on the news at some point, about a week ago or so, that she had been released, right? And then only for me to hear about a couple of days ago that she's been sentenced to another year in prison. So that for me is something I'm thinking, what is going on there? And then with George Floyd's case, yes, the verdict was given, guilty on all charges and all of that. And it got me thinking in terms of justice. And as we've been talking about, Pastor Temi has been teaching us on resurrection and all. I was just thinking, like, I'm really truly thinking about what justice is. Because one can say, yes, George Floyd has got justice and all of that. And then this woman is like, do I even know what justice looks like in our own case? So I thought I'll just bring it here and let's discuss it, because I know, Prof, you always know these things. You read a lot, so you will know what to say to this, because if you ask me, I probably wouldn't know. So, yeah. But yeah, so Prof, what does justice mean to you? And what does it look like?
Thank you for the setup, baby.
I definitely did not set you up, Prof. Definitely did not set you up.
Right, exam question. But anyway, thank you. I understand where you're coming from anyway, because I also heard the news. And the first question you asked, the question of justice, that's a very interesting question. On the surface of it, it seems like a very straightforward question, but I think it's a fundamental question. It's a deep question, a profound one, because it reaches to the very fundamental desire and demand of our nature. And I'll tell you what I mean. So on the one hand, if you have a worldview that accepts or accommodates the existence of a creator God that is beyond mankind, and even the Christian God, then that becomes an anchor for your perspective of what justice should be, okay? Because you have an example and you have something to benchmark it against. But when you don't have that, then you are left with trying to define justice in a relative environment, right? In the shifting sand of, okay, how can I say what is just and what is not? How do you differentiate justice from just preference, right? Yeah. I don't like you doing this. Does that really mean that what you've done is unjust, or does it mean that I don't like it?
So sorry, I just have to say something there. Yes. How do you differentiate justice from preference?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that is profound. Yes. Honestly, Prof.
I think that's what I mean, right? If you don't have a horizon, it's like when you fly. I don't know whether you've experienced this, but you're in a plane and maybe you're on one of those flights that are overnight flights and the sun is rising, And sometimes the plane is turning and it's upside down.
Yeah.
The only way you know which side is right, side up, which side is up, is if you can see the horizon.
That's right.
If you're looking through the window and you don't see anything, you don't actually know. You could be already upside down and you have no idea. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so if you're left in that situation and you can't see anything outside of yourself that tells you which side is up, what do you end up doing? All of you in the plane will say, well, let's point up. Wherever we point up, that's up.
That's it. Up.
Even though that might be down. And that's what I mean, right? And so I think that we cannot talk about justice without understanding what I call the divine imprint on us, like the image of God upon us. I think that our experience of life tells us that this idea of justice is deep-seated within us, because from our earliest memories as children, we always have a strong feeling of what is fair and what's not. This is fair, this is not fair. And you know, where does that come from? I would say in the simplest of senses, justice is doing the right thing to the right person within the right context and at the right time.
Right? Doing the right thing to the right person in the right context and at the right time. That is justice. Guys, someone should please type that in the chat box. Thank you.
So, but that itself introduces more questions. What is the right thing?
Oh, true.
Right. So, and this, if you bring this idea of a divine example, that's why the Bible says the throne of God is founded on righteousness and justice. Because in order for there to be justice, there's got to be righteousness. Right? In order for the right thing to be done, you've got to know what that right thing is. In other words, in order for there to be justice, there's got to be truth. Right? And so for us, I think that justice, the demand for justice, is an expression of the image of God that is imprinted upon us, because that is the very nature of God, righteousness and justice, and that's imprinted upon us right from creation. So for whether fallen man or renewed man, that imprint remains there. And so our hearts yearn for justice. Wherever it is that we feel that injustice is being done, our hearts yearn for it, and something within us rebels against it. Right? And in a sort of summary, you would then say justice is simply that which ought to be. So, you know, bringing all of that together. And so if you think of the other one I said, the problem with having a kind of relativistic way of looking at justice is, like we said earlier, how do you determine what is right and what is not? How do you differentiate between people's preferences and what is not? And you end up having a consensus, and the majority view will take, okay, decide that's justice, even if that's not right,
that's not
the right way. Remember that plane I was talking about? If everybody decides that they're going to point in one way and say that's up, and one person says, no, actually, I know that up is down. In this case, you say you're crazy.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So when we come to the question you asked, I think that we have two examples there of the kind of thing that we talked of, and the reflection of the fallen world in which we live. So on the one hand, we have the example of George Floyd, and it was a very public trial and very, public set of events, because people saw what happened, and that triggered the demonstrations, the protests last year, and so forth. So, and from the perspective of the family, what would justice be? Right? So a number of people would say, oh, justice, well, the policeman, in this case, the defendant, was found on all counts. So they might say that's justice. But the family might say, but our brother, our son, our father is still dead. Yeah. Right? So if we say justice is that which ought to be, well, it's not complete, because he's dead. He's not being restored to life. Right? And then you look at the other hand, Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe. We don't know what, the circumstances surrounding it. Obviously, the state has charged her with quite serious crimes. And then, but from 2016, when she was first incarcerated, till earlier this year when she was released, from the perspective of the family, they'll be saying, oh, at least mom is coming back, and the wife is coming back, sister is coming back, and then what happens? Another year is tagged on to it. And then the family would say, well, has justice been done? Stop? Justice, when will it stop? Exactly. And I'm using the kind of existential, emotional, live feelings, because that's really where justice sits. You see, when you ask somebody to define justice, when I ask you to think of justice, you don't necessarily stop with head knowledge. It's about feeling there is something in you that feels that's right. Justice has been done. Right? And there's something that feels no, something is it's not quite right. Something is missing. Remember that story that Jesus told about the widow who went to the unjust judge looking for justice, and she cried out to him day and night and stood there demanding justice, right? And wore him out. There was again that existential element of crying out, demanding justice, right? You see in the book of Revelation, again, the Bible talking of the souls of those who were martyred for the gospel, their souls crying out under the altar, asking for justice, crying out for justice. You hear about the blood of Abel, crying out for justice.
Crying out justice.
So justice, the expression of justice, is intricately connected, if you like, to our souls, to our emotions, to our feelings, to our lived experience. It's not enough to define justice and say, kind of put a dictionary definition and say, there you go, 2 + 2 4, that's justice. No, I need to feel like justice has been done, right? And so, and that's why I said there are different perspectives, right? For any situation where you think of justice, you have different perspectives. Ultimately, you would, if you want to see the kind of full expression of it, you go to the places where the injustice has been felt the most. And that's why I said, when you ask the family of George Floyd, even if the policeman gets sentenced to, many years in jail, would they feel like justice has been done? They might say, well, given the way it's been defined here, we might say, yes, it's been done. But for you, is this what it ought to be?
Yes.
Probably say, no, something is missing. Why? Because our brother is not here. Right? And so that brings me to, really, for me, what I think is a key learning point from all of this, and it really highlights what I said earlier about the fallen world in which we live. Yeah, because regardless of our best efforts to bring justice, there's only so far we can go.
That's right.
Right? Because if you were to ask, I imagine that if you were to ask the family of George Floyd, if you had a blank check and you could just get any resolution to this matter that you would, what would it be? They would probably say, I want my daddy back. I want my brother back.
Right.
If I could turn back the hands of time, I would go to that time and just stop this from ever happening.
Just stop from happening.
But I want anything else is next best, right? And so forth. So, and for me, this connects really quite importantly with something that Pastor Timmy said about 3 or 4 Sundays ago now. And he said, and he was talking about resurrection.
Yeah.
He was saying that within the Christian context, right? Within the context of Christian God and our worldview, resurrection is not only possible, it is necessary.
It is necessary. Yeah.
And I build on that to say, yes, it's necessary, because if you think of this concept of justice, with the greatest expressions of human justice in the human sense doesn't come with restoration. Lost lives are not
true. Lost life is lost, right?
The lost limb is not going to be restored. Lost livelihood, okay, you may pay the person money, but you're not going to give him back the time, right?
True.
And so, but when we talk of course, most important in this case, it's life. Human technology can restore so many things, extend life and so forth. But one thing it's not being able to do is to bring back life, the life that was lost. Whereas in the Christian context, when resurrection comes into play, suddenly the family of the one whose life has been lost, and who believe that there's going to be a resurrection, and that person also is within the context of being resurrected, will say, on the day when resurrection happens, our justice will be complete. Then we will get to meet our loved one again. And on the other hand, the person who might have thought that they got away with whatever it is they did, the day when the resurrection happens, justice will also be complete, because then they will answer for what they did. So it's again, I use the term existential, and this is really to talk about beyond our intellect, beyond the kind of reasoned arguments and putting lining everything up nicely together. Because when we start talking of these heavy matters, it's not about joined and connected and constructed sentences. It's about, I want to feel that justice is done. Somebody who has lost a loved one will not feel better because you've said to them, It could be worse. The person
I know, yeah. And you know what? That's the funnest thing, though. It's what you tend to hear most times. Oh, you know what? You have to be grateful to God because that could have been worse. You know, that person could have done this, or this person could have done that. And then you feel like, is that meant to make the person feel better about what has just happened to them? You know, so maybe we're just saying there's no justice anywhere for the time being. Like, it's what we define as justice. I like what you said earlier about what your preference is. If my preference was to see, for instance, Derek not found guilty and he got found guilty, I would say that is an injustice, right? But am I right? Am I wrong? Do I know? Do you understand? So it's based on, and I love that way that you've put it. It's based on our preference. Sometimes you look at it, things from your own lenses, and you're like, yes, that's right. That serves this person right, and all of these things. But I was saying about the journalist in Iran, not really know much about our situation. I just still feel that justice is not being served in some shape or form with her. But then again, it could be because of my preference again, because I'm thinking, oh, this is a mother. She's been away from her child for so long. She's been away from her husband and her family. But, you know, I don't think I have the answer, to be honest.
Well, this is exactly why I said that without truth, it's impossible to know what justice is. Right? Yeah. So without knowing that which is right, righteousness and justice. Justice flows from righteousness. You know what is right, and then you know the right thing to do to the right person, the right context, and the right time. If you don't know what the right thing is, you can't do that. But how do you know what the right thing is? The actual process of knowing the right thing is finding the truth. Right. So just like what you said, if you don't know the truth of what has been happening in these circumstances, what you're left with is what you're presented, and you can only then try to make a judgment based on that, right? Yeah. And so that means that justice demands truth. Without truth, what we are left with are preferences, right? And preferences sometimes will align with the truth, sometimes they won't. And if you leave it up to the preferences of other people, that doesn't mean that justice will be done.
That's right.
And that's why I was saying that I think for Christians, and that's one of the things underpinning a lot of our worldview, really, that we trust God, that God knows for the matter, and ultimately because He is the one that knows the truth, the whole truth.
The whole truth,
the truth. He is the one in the best position to bring justice, the whole justice, nothing left out, right? Mankind can try to kind of express that in the temporal, in the current world, because we need to have justice, right? Otherwise,
that's why we have laws, we have rules and regulations,
but it's not going to be perfect. But we acknowledge, we accept. It's easier for us to deal with the imperfections of the justice that we experience now, because we believe that in the future there will be perfection.
Yes, there will be perfection. Yes.
Whereas if there is no promise of a future perfection of justice, it becomes a lot more difficult to deal with current injustice. It's either you deal with that, you don't deal with it, or you just try and redefine it and say, I have to redefine it and say this is justice. So, but I think it's a complex conversation. But
it is. But thank you so much, Prof. As always, the way you answered it, I really, really loved it. I hope that our viewers as well, you've gained something from what Prof has shared with us this morning, because as you said, justice is based on preference. So maybe next time when you're trying to check whether justice has been served on something or not, check what your preference is. Is it because I really want this person to die, or is it because I really want this person to not die? But anyway, Prof, I'm sure
just to build on that, I think more importantly for us as Christians, our justice needs to be based on the truth. So our focus should always be to pursue what that truth is. When we can find the truth is, then we are more truly reflecting what God's mind is, because His justice will be based on the truth. Our preference, using justice as a preference, is when we can't see the truth, but that's not the ideal situation, right? Because we want to know what the truth is, and then that way we can pursue justice. I'll leave you with this. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 8, I think, says, Love
Yeah.
does not rejoice in injustice, but
Justice.
rejoices in truth. And that's exactly it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Guys, thank you so much. You've read it all. Let's also open up to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit does wonders, right? It tells us what we need to do at the right time. All right, don't go anywhere. When we're back, it will be our Spotlight Minutes. Hey, Otumba, good morning.
Hello, brother Niyi.
Good
How are you?
morning.
How are you guys doing? I'm doing okay. Doing okay.
Oh, nice. Love
to
the
see
art
you.
behind you.
Just don't ask me what it's about. So
That's fine. That's fine.
Actually, I have something else I want to ask you. I heard her calling you Otumba. What is that? Where does that come from? Why do people call you Otumba?
oh my Lord, it started out from the outfits that I wear. People think I wear a lot of traditional, so with my stuff, and then that's where the Otumba came from.
I see. Is that Otumba art behind you then?
I'll go with that one.
Probably. Probably. Oh wow. Thank you for joining us. So guys, viewers, you heard it. Otumba is Otumba because of his traditional outfits. You know what, guys? Maybe you don't even know that he's called Otumba. So now you know his name.
Yeah.
So you can start addressing him as Otumba. Next time you see him, just say hello, Otumba. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is Spotlight Minute, and as always, Prof is going to read out the question. You know about this anyway, because I know you have been watching the show every Sunday. So you know what to expect here. So there are 7 questions answered already under 30 seconds. So now we want to see if you'll be able to beat that. You only have 30 seconds, and let's see how many questions you can get right under 30 seconds. So the timer will be on your screen. If you can't see it, don't worry, because I'll shout when the time is up. I'll shout when time starts as well. But if you don't have an answer to a question, just say pass so that Prof can read another one to you. Are you ready?
I am ready.
If you're ready, go. Prof, are you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, so Otumba, here goes your time.
If you could teach one subject in school, what would it be?
Physics.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Superman.
What's your favorite app?
Play Store.
What was your first job?
Engineering.
What skill do you wish you could master?
Flying.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Not swimming at all.
What's the one thing you were worried about but ended up not being a big deal?
Making money.
Time up.
Oh.
Time up.
Wow.
How did I
think we are going to be stuck on 7 for a while.
You know why I think that was so impressive? So these questions are chosen at random. And you actually got quite a few doozers, questions that were hard.
I know. And there were a bit of pauses there. It paused a bit, and they were like, Otumba, well done, well done.
I was saying to myself, I'm not sure how I would answer these questions myself.
So am I in the
had 2 more seconds?
You are at the top of the leaderboard with 7.
You are. You know what? We have like 4 people on this right now. Anyways, just keep enjoying it. Otumba, you've joined the League of Winners. So
that's
congratulations.
Good.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Well done.
We will see you in service. Okay.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Otumba, well done to you.
That was impressive.
That was impressive. Guys, okay. Now, we can't do this 7 anymore.
No.
We have 4 people on 7. So whoever is coming next, please make sure you are coming to give us like 8 or 9 questions, okay, or 9 answers, okay? So thank you guys for joining us again this weekend. It has been fantastic. I have had fun. I know that, yes, we're talking about something very serious, justice and injustice. We have learned something. I hope you have learned something, actually. But Prof, thank you once again. And it is time for service. As always, Prof, please take us into service.
Thank you, Bibi. Well, here we are. It's the first Sunday of the month. Communion service, just lots of great things. I'm sure we enjoyed the push that we've had this week and enjoyed the speaking to the new month. So we're all ready to go in and take what the Lord has prepared for us in this month and to show us how exactly that's going to happen. Coming up next, Pastor Temi and all of the service that's bringing to us today. God bless you. See you. Don't go anywhere.
Bye, guys.